Hi guys, I'm going to talk about an application called snconnector, which is Node.js application and uh, integration and workflow APIs and automation platform. About snconnector, what is snconnector? Uh, snconnector is node-based platform where you can design, publish APIs, integration, workflow, and automation. The name is Sn plus connector, where Sn represent the simple node and connector represent kind of integration or something which can connect. Okay. Then what is node? A node is an activity, task, integration, or some kind of function to perform on the workflow or on the platform. Every integration, APIs, or anything custom on the platform is one node. It means node is a core building block of application. Anything on the platform comes as a, node. Everything you need to represent as a node. So node is a core building block of application. Node types. Node types can be a trigger and the action type. Node perform a range of action, including starting the workflow, fetching and sending the data, processing and manipulating data, integrations, and GenAI or anything, okay, on the platform. If multiple nodes are connected, they form a workflow. Okay, so every workflow is a connected set of nodes where each node represent an activity. Okay, we have other platform, other tools in the market. Why this SN connector? This is doing the same thing like integration, APIs, workflow automation. We have other tools. Why this platform? Why again this platform? Okay, we have to understand to understand why this platform. We need to understand how full stack application normally built. A full stack application usually consists of three major layers, each serving a specific purpose. Front end UI layer. This is a part where user interact directly. Okay, common choices are React. Let's say UI is built in the React or maybe Angular or Vue. Okay, and the responsibility of this layer is rendering the user application, handling user input, calling backend API, managing client side state. Okay, this is the front end layer. Backend layer is this is the application core logic and act as a bridging between UI and the database. Common language for writing the backend is Node.js, Express, Python. Okay, you can select Java, Go, PHP, anything. Okay, and the responsibility is implementing the business logic, handling the API routes, validation and processing the data, managing authentication and authorization, and communicating with the database. This is the responsibility of backend layer. Let me open the uh, enable the ledger pane so that I can point it out where I am calling out. And then we have the third layer called database layer. Uh, Database layer store the application data. Okay, the choice may be SQL database or no SQL database, and the responsibility of this layer is storing the structured or unstructured data, providing fast and reliable data access. Okay, supporting queries and transaction. These are the major three layer in full stack application. Okay, we are trying to understand why SN connector is needed. Okay, okay. Additional component in full stack application may be uh, caching. For example, you can use the Redis, file storage on the cloud. You can use You can use the different kind of authentication as well, like JWT and OAuth authentication, and you can use the CI/CD pipeline or any testing framework. Okay, these are the additional component you might use. Okay, this is the requirement, but what is minimum requirement which you need? You can't build the full stack application without this requirement. These are the minimum, like you need some kind of front end language, React, Angular, or Vue, or backend, Node.js and Express, database also, or even simple. Let's say you do not want a React. Uh, Sorry, let me go back. Mm, 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 mm. Application. Now, why SN connector is special? Uh, SN connector tech stack doesn't require, you can say, a backend or database. You only need a JSON schema to build a complete full stack application on the SN connector platform. In short, you write JSON configuration and the UI plus form plus validation and the layout are automatically generated. It means no React, Angular, Vue, or no heavy UI coding, no backend logic you need to write, no complex databases. This is the beauty of the application. It means what is the advantage of SN connector application? What is the advantage of building a integration or API or workflow automation on SN connector platform? First is extremely fast development. You do not write HTML, CSS, JS manually, right? You only define the UI in JSON. UI is generated automatically. This reduces the development time drastically. Faster than React, Angular, and Vue. Great for internal tool. 10 to 20 times faster UI build time for form and dashboard application. Okay. No need for uh, heavy framework. No component design, routing, state management, packaging, nothing like this. Okay, because ultimately there is no framework involved. So you do not need all this. Third one, which is the biggest advantage, is lower skill requirement. A team member only need to understand how JSON works, which I think normally every developer understand. How to build the JSON, how to write the JSON, what is JSON. It means you do not need to learn the React, CSS framework, JSX, TypeScript, front-end state management, not like this. So perfect for citizen developer, backend developer, and data engineers. Okay. Next benefit is highly configurable without code. Want a new form or UI screen? Just update the JSON schema. If client is telling just to add some field, modify some field, delete some field, you do not need to write down the backend, no build you need. You simply need to update the JSON and it will update the schema, it will update the UI on fly. In traditional application, create a new front-end component, write a JSX or template, and then connect API endpoint. In this method, you simply update the JSON, UI changes automatically. Okay, it means it is very light. Next benefit is it is very light. React Angular bundles are often 200 to 500 kbs. JSON editor UI is much lighter and load faster. This means better performance, faster load time, good for low power devices. And next benefit is it is easy to maintain. Simple UI equal to JSON. No complex front end bugs. UI behavior is consistent, easier version control. Schema driven approach reduces error and consistency and standardization as well. Every UI screen follow the same pattern automatically. You are not writing the different CSS for different form, uh, different kind of function for different screen. It is consistent. Same structure, same kind of validation, common standard validation. So these are the benefit of building an application on SN connector application. Okay. Now, if we will compare the JSON-driven approach which SN connector follow versus other workflow application or other application which is using the full stack like React, Angular, or other backend platform. In the JSON-driven UI development very fast. You are not interacting with any language. You simply need to write down the JSON. Okay. Code require almost none. In the other full stack application, you need to write down a lot of UI code. Learning curve very low. JSON everyone knows. Here you need to learn first React, Angular, and then you can only write application. Okay. Flexibility is definitely medium. Here you have complete freedom. You can write whatever component you wanted to write, but you have to learn the React and Angular first. Performance very light. Here heavier. Maintenance is very simple. Here in the React and Angular it is complex. Custom design, if I'll talk about the SN connector design, we have designed four themes which you can utilize. Default theme is Bootstrap. Three are depending on your choice. You can enable them. Okay, so 4 to 5 themes we have currently enabled on SN connector platform. Material UI is one of them, and we have other three as well. Here we have definitely unlimited. You can install whatever package. So here we have the complete custom design flexibility. Best use case, if you have very complex consumer app, then definitely you can go with full stack. But if you medium size app or kind of CRUD application, form, dashboard, workflow, or automation API, then definitely you need to select the JSON driven schema because it is very simple. Okay, there's no complexity involved. Final summary is why we are building this SN connector. Even there are other tools exist in the market. What SN connector is very simple application where you can build APIs, integration, and workflows. It means there is no React or Angular you need to learn. There's no bloated library for building the UI. This is the first reason. Second is no limited execution as long as the rate limits are not exceeded. Okay, with support of for 5 current jobs per user. You can trigger the workflow. You can test the workflow. Uh, if you are not exceeding the limit of 5 simultaneously workflow, then you can execute as much as workflow you want on platform. There is no execution limit. Normally workflow platform has a execution limit. For example, you cannot run more than 2000 execution of workflow in a month. and you have to pay for that 2000. Here there is no payment. The application is completely free to use as far as you are not exceeding the rate limit. Okay, so just JSON, JavaScript, and HTML. That is also a rare. Only JSON is the primary, and you can design the complex application. Like you can build workflow. You can design the complete chatbot application. Okay, which is not easy to design. At least you cannot, like either you need to design the a lot of CSS, React, Angular. Here not like this. You just write the basic JSON schema. The chatbot will be designed. RAG application, okay, integration API, webhook, custom UI you can build, and many more. Everything, whatever you think in today's AI-driven application we are designing, uh, that all you can do on this platform with simple JSON schema. Yeah, so primary development is through the JSON. If required, you can do the customization. Why the native JavaScript? You do not need to learn something which is vendor specific. Okay, I have used many platform where they are uh, giving you the SDK or library, and you have to stick on that library only. You cannot use that library outside of their platform, which is for me seems a little bit time consuming, because we are learning something which we cannot use outside of that platform. Okay, here it is not the case. You just have to learn the basic JavaScript, which you can use anywhere on any platform which is supporting the JavaScript. So what is the top feature of the platform? Platform is no code, low code workflow builder, where you can build end to end workflow with minimum setup. Okay. If required, you can extend behavior using the JavaScript and Lodash library of JavaScript. You can install your custom library as well if you wanted to extend. These two are sufficient to extend the platform, but it is your choice. You can extend it. Okay. The Yeah, you can built-in function library, or you can inject your own utility as well. Platform is AI native uh, by default. So, for example, let's say we have one chat GPT and the agent, or any agentic platform you will take, and any workflow. If you wanted to call that agent, you need to pass the tool. Okay, and tool basically is kind of JSON schema only. It may be JSON schema, or basic JSON schema, but schema you need. So, and you need to design the tool. Those tool you need to provide to agent. Then only your agentic uh, application will work. What is the benefit of SN connector? Everything is automatically and already by default natively a JSON schema. So, tool for agent you especially do not need to design. All the node are automatically tool for AI application, right? It means every node automatically becomes an AI discoverable tool. Every workflow can be triggered by the agent. And how? All without writing the React UI or backend logic. Because everything is designed on the JSON schema, which is kind of like uh, native language for tool, for AI tool. Yeah, JSON based UI builder, you can create your custom nodes. It is not the case that you need to stick with the platform node only. You can design your own custom node with simple JSON schema again. You can build a dynamic form with simple JSON, no front end code is required. Instance instant UI generation from schema, ideal for integration of business form with Bootstrap theme as default and other four supported theme. Okay, tool has multiple execution mode. You can execute tool from API. You can trigger from manual, or you can trigger from a schedule job. You can uh, trigger a node from workflow as well. Each node can also be invoked independently as a reusable microservice. Every node is one JSON schema and every node is one microservice as well. You can either invoke the workflow or you can invoke the individual node as well. Platform completely support the inbound and outbound API. Inbound API, it supports via webhook application, via webhook node. Application has HTTP outbound node as well. For testing the node and workflow, you do not need a external data. Platform as an inbuilt data simulation and testing nodes basically. Generate and save demo data for EC testing. Test node and workflow without external dependency, ideal for integration, sandboxing, and debugging. So data is everywhere. Uh, if you wanted to manipulate, you wanted to transform the data and logic, you can write down the native JavaScript. Like you suppose you wanted to transform filter map data using inline JavaScript, or you can use the Lodes utility. Built-in JSON mapping and variable support, reuse transformation across workflow for consistency. Secure credential and authentication. So basically, when you design the credential, you need to provide the credential for service for which you are trying to integrate. Okay, the platform has uh, all the credential are encrypted and securely stored on platform. Okay, it supports basic authentication and token based authentication out of the box, or whatever authentication that service is supporting. Credential can be reused across workflow or scoped per node. You can design a schedule and background jobs on a platform. Okay, for example, you wanted to monitor some service. Okay, you wanted to uh, let's say monitor your Twitter account. Okay, then you can design scheduling and background jobs which will trigger every minute, every second, whatever schedule you are using, it will trigger and maintain that job on a recurring basis. Yeah, so platform has extensible architecture as well. You can add and extend and integrate other node as well. Add new node types without code. Just drop a new JSON schema, your node is built. Extend with custom Node.js module or third-party library. Integrate easily with other system via REST API or via other connector. Domain separated architecture. Each user has their own isolated instance, no shared data, no shared session. between the user. Okay, dab instance is on shared infrastructure but are domain separated. Dab can also be set up on separate instance depending on the choice of the client. Okay, so data and everything is completely separated from each other on the platform. If you are logging in the system first time, then this is the sign in screen you will see. If the first time, then you need to click on this new checkbox, new user, and then sign in. Once you click on sign in, if all good, you will be able to sign in, and along with the sign in, one mail will be triggered on this mail ID. Okay, email will look like this. Email will come from Firebase application. uh, SN connector is using Firebase authentication service. So this mail is completely valid. You have to validate your email ID. Temporary, one time you will be able to log in the system, but once you log out, next time for login in the system, you need to confirm your email ID. Okay, so it is mandatory, it is must to provide the valid email ID, then you will be able to log in the system. Currently, you need to log on this dab and test instance, snconnector testinstance.com. What this is the production URL. Okay, I'll give the overview of platform. Okay, there are various UI on the platform. I'll walk through all these. Platform has a left side navigation where we have 5 different buttons. First button is add node. Once you click on this, you will be able to add notes on the workflow editor canvas. If you are creating a new workflow, you need to click on this create workflow. This button is if you wanted to add a new credential and scheduler, you need to click on this credential and scheduler. If you wanted to log out and log in, you need to click on this login and sign up button. If you are interested to watch a video related to SN connector, you can click on this. You will be redirected on SN connector YouTube channel. This is the left side navigation. Once you log in the instance, you'll get this left side navigation queue. Okay, so this was the left side navigation queue. Next is once you click on this add node, this kind of model will come out. Okay, this model has different category of nodes. First one is basic trigger. You will get 3 trigger, manual schedule and webhook. These are the node which is responsible for starting the workflow, kind of triggering the workflow. Manual means you can manually start the workflow. Schedule means workflow will be started but based on the schedule selected. Webhook means your node or workflow will be started from the inbound API. Someone will trigger the webhook which will start the node or workflow. Okay, so currently platform support these three trigger on the instance. Other category is of kind of action. Action is basic integration action. Then GenAI action is related to GenAI, generative AI actions. Programming action is kind of writing the function, if else, switch, programming action related. Designer action is if you wanted to design your custom UI, custom node, kind of UI designing. then you can select the designer action. If you have designed your custom action, then they will be by default displayed in the my custom action. These are the model which will come once you click on add node. Once you click on add credential and scheduler and credential, this is the button. Once you click on this, again, one table will be displayed. All you need to click on add credential to add a new credential for any service. For example, you wanted to connect with ServiceNow. Then you need to select on add credential, and you need to select the ServiceNow service. You can add your credential by adding a new credential. Once you add this, then the credential will be displayed on my credential. Similarly, if you wanted to add a new scheduler, you need to click on add scheduler, and currently one scheduler is default scheduler which you can add only. After adding, that scheduler will be displayed on my scheduler tab. Okay, this was the scheduler and credential button. We have top menu which contains two button, editor and data. Editor is where you'll design a workflow. Okay, you can add the different kind of node on the editor. It is the workflow canvas where you need to add a different node. You can trigger a node, you can test your node. And then we have the data tab as well. Once you trigger node or once you save your workflow, it is kind of data, right? You wanted to see the execution, you wanted to see your saved workflow. So we have the data which is saving your all kind of data, whatever workflow you are saving, whatever execution you are having. If you are uploading any files, then the file will be displayed here. And if you wanted to save any JSON schema, then that will be displayed in the fourth tab. Here we have three UI action. Once you click on select, then selected workflow will be your current workflow. If you wanted to delete, you can click on delete. If you wanted to execute this workflow from the list view, you can select and execute this workflow. This was the overview of data tables. Basically, these are the data tables which you can go by selecting the data tab on the top menu. And then we have the one text box where you can change, update the workflow name as well. Left side we have the logo of SN connector. Once you select on any node, it will come on the canvas. On the canvas you can right click on node, then you will get this menu. Okay, first option is delete. You can delete it either from this red icon, or you can click on delete. The node will be deleted from canvas. You can clone it. One duplicate node, one clone of this node will be created with all the configuration but different ID, DOM ID from this node. Okay, so it is used for cloning the node. Uh, Copy node ID. Once you right click and click on the copy node ID, you will be able to copy the DOM ID of this node, which is kind of unique ID on this of this node on the canvas. Copy schema type. This option is basically schema ID, you can say. So node ID is the JavaScript DOM ID on the canvas, but this is the schema ID. Every node is one kind of JSON schema. Okay, schema type will be the kind of type schema. For example, this will be a kind of GenAI schema. We have other node as well on the platform like HTTP. They are kind of HTTP schema. Okay. Then the API endpoint. once you click on this, every in the back slide I have told you every node is kind of microservice. Okay, API endpoint gives you the URL of that microservice, which is the post REST API. You can trigger this node from outside of SN connector as well. This was the context menu. This is the overview of node. Once you double click on any node, then this kind of form will be opened. Okay, where first button is expand and coalesce button. This data will be expand or coalesce. Okay, then we have the name of node. This is the name of node. Here it is called ServiceNow. Means this node represent ServiceNow node, ServiceNow configuration. Next we have JSON button. This is the JSON button. Okay, you can copy the, you can click on this button, then the JSON will be displayed with which this schema will accept. So you can copy this JSON button. And then we have the test this step. You can click on this and you can test your schema. Next button is close button. Once you click on the close button, this schema will be closed. Okay, this is called a form, a schema form. Here it is the schema form of ServiceNow node, or you can say it is a ServiceNow node. Here we have a small button as well, which is a schema download button. If you click on this, schema will be downloaded. Almost all the nodes which is related to kind of integration node, we have few common field. On this credential field, out of this common field, we have one field um which is the credential field. Okay, it stored the credential of service. For example, if you wanted to connect ServiceNow, then it is storing a ServiceNow credential. Here is the ID of credential only. I'll show you how to create the credential, but as of now, you think like you'll get mostly the credential field on the node if it is using the credential for connecting the service. And then we have the operation field. Operation field, you think something like a kind of specific operation of service which you wanted to trigger. Let's say ServiceNow is providing 100 APIs. You can create a data on the table. You can connect with CMDB. You can trigger scripted REST API. You can do lot of on ServiceNow platform. Okay, these lot of operations or actions are divided in 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 form of operation here. So if you wanted to create a record, it is one operation on the platform. If you wanted to read the record, it is another operation. So operation field is kind of the task which you wanted to perform on that service. Okay, in this schema, for example, it is showing get many table records. Okay, if you wanted to get many records from ServiceNow, this is the operation you need to select. This is completely configurable and customizable. It is just whatever name you wanted to give, you can give, because it is just a schema, JSON schema. Whatever name you wanted to give for your service, for your operation, you can give. And then we have the name of uh, a node. Here, whatever name you'll type, it will come on here. Here we have typed service now, that is why it is coming here. Whatever name you wanted to give to your node, you just need to give the name. This was the configuration section, and then we have API section, which is, you think like a collection of API in Postman, where you can store all the APIs. Okay, it is kind of bookmarking the API. If some service is exposing 100 API, you wanted to save all the 100 API. Okay, in the API section, you can feed data of all the 100 API. Out of 100 API, whatever API you wanted to select, that you need to give in the operation, but that all the API collection you can store in the API section. Okay, these are two sections, configuration and APIs. Then we have the advanced setting. This is the advanced setting of node, which is deciding how you wanted to trigger your node. Let's say ServiceNow, this node is unable to connect with ServiceNow. It means your node will show the error. Okay. But if this node is part of any workflow, the complete workflow will be aborted. It will give the error, right? That advanced setting, you can decide whether you still wanted to continue with the failed node or you wanted to stop the workflow. This kind of decision you can take in the advanced setting of node. Some node may not contains the advanced setting because it is not required for them to have the advanced setting. If the node is not based on the REST API, then not necessarily the API section will be there. You just have to uh, think the API section is kind of all the collection of services. Name we have given here APIs because it represent the APIs. But if you wanted to give some other name, you can give other name as well. So node, how the node is built. The node is front end is defined using the simple JSON schema. No React, Angular, nothing like this. You simply need to define the JSON schema. Your node will be built. And the node's backend is Node.js function. You do not need to write the backend function. You simply need to uh, give the handler name, which is just 5 to 6 letter word. You need to give. You need to tell that which kind of node you are performing. Okay, and that's it. You do not need to write the backend. Your backend is already written. What is the difference between JSON schema versus JSON on SN connector platform? JSON schema builds the EUI, okay, while JSON provide the input value the node uses. Both can be downloaded from node. JSON and JSON schema. I showed you that JSON button which is on top of node. That provide the JSON which that node will accept. Okay, we have to provide in HTTP call, for example, we have to provide the body. Okay, that body is one JSON. Okay, that service is accepting some body. Okay, similarly here node is accepting some body, that JSON will show that body, request body. Okay, while JSON schema is how the UI of that JSON is built. Hope this is clear. The difference between JSON schema and JSON. Some node example I can give on the SN connector platform. One is HTTP request node. This node allow you to call any external REST API inside your workflow. You can use it to send data, fetch data, or integrate with third-party services. Okay, then how to use the HTTP node? Basically, think like you are working with the postman. Okay, how to use the postman interface? So you need to get the API detail. Okay, of service which you wanted to trigger. Let's say you wanted to trigger a service now. You need a service now API detail. Before configuring HTTP node, gather the API information you want to call. You can get this information from the service API documentation. You can go on the documentation site of that particular service. You can get the detail, or simply you can use the REST chat GPT. Give me REST API detail for service now, let's say. It will give you all the important detail. Then you can take down and get more API detail of that service. Okay, and then you need a HTTP method which you wanted to trigger, URL, headers, query, body, authentication, like a standard interface which we need for triggering any HTTP service. You need that detail. Okay, and then simply enter API detail in the node, open the HTTP node, go to APIs detail, which I have explained, like all the API you need to save there. Go in the APIs detail, enter the detail you collected. APIs collection. HTTP request node help in building APIs collection like Postman. Okay. If you wanted to build Postman less than 60 second with this JSON schema. Currently, platform has many integrations node under once you click on that add node action on the left navigation. On the action tab, you will get these ServiceNow, Gmail, Telegram, Google Drive, and other integration node. They all are simple JSON schema. Okay, they are simple HTTP JSON schema. We have just collected the API detail of these services. We have entered data in the API section, and that's it. We simply given the name ServiceNow, Gmail, or whatever you name you wanted to give. But the point is they are simple HTTP schema, HTTP node. Okay, we are calling ServiceNow because we have entered the detail of ServiceNow API. That is why we are calling a ServiceNow node. We entered the Gmail, so we are calling the Gmail. Demo time. Babok node, inbound API. Okay, Babok node, you consider, for example, you design some workflow or some node, both are possible, and some external service wanted to connect or call that workflow or node. Okay, then you need to use the webhook node, which will give you webhook URL, which you can share with that third party external service. They simply need to call that API. Okay, and they will be able to connect with your workflow. As discussed earlier, every node is one microservice. Okay, as soon as you add a node on the canvas, any node is automatically a REST API. As soon as you add a node, the system generate a API route for it, allowing external app to call the node directly using standard HTTP, GET, and POST. It means once you are adding the node, you are automatically designing a collection of microservices, right? And how every configuration instantly becomes a callable API. No deployment, no backend setup, just configuration, save and run it. As discussed earlier, this is, for example, we have added one ServiceNow node on the canvas. Okay. Now I wanted to call this node from the Postman or from any external. I simply need to right click on this ServiceNow node. I need to click on this API endpoint and I need to share with that third party external service. And that's it. They will be able to call the ServiceNow node. You can think on the benefit of every node is automatic REST API architecture, right? So no backend coding required, reusability, fast iteration, easy integration, microservice-like behavior, and consistent API. What can be the real world use cases for this kind of architecture where every node is one REST API? First is make any API live instantly by exposing every node as a ready-to-use REST endpoint without backend setup. Integrate with third-party services. Replace backend code by letting nodes handle logic, computation, or database operation through simple API call. Let's say you wanted to expose the API of PostgreSQL, right? So you simply need to design the Postgre JSON schema and your API will be exposed. That JSON schema will connect on the backend, so your data will be exposed automatically. Your node will try to fetch the data from Postgre. You do not need to write the a separate logic for exposing the data through the API. Okay, and you definitely can connect internal and private API across team or department using consistent auto-generated node endpoint. Another benefit you can think on.